Back when millennials ruled the internet, you couldn't escape the constant reminders on how great the 90s were. It was a time of SUVs and badass presidents.
Get off my plate.
While straight-to-video Disney films was Disney Plus before Disney Plus. I mean, look at this. Oh, you enjoyed these great movies? Well, here are some other movies that are not that good, but it's better than nothing. For Sonic the Hedgehog, I think it's best to describe this lost generation as a direct-to-video era. It's better than nothing. Just like how Return of Jafar is not getting a theatrical remake, these games are not getting remade, unlike its competition. For about 5 years, there was no mainline entry into the franchise. Let me remind you, this is the one Sega property to get a movie. Oh shit. So why wasn't there a 32-bit Sonic adventure? Well, this generation of Sonic is the last generation because it just reflects lost direction, ambition, and more importantly, a lost platform. Alright, time to... ah, shit.
An outer space spectacular that was the stuff of dreams only a generation ago began snapping into the sharp focus of reality today. After its billion-mile journey from Earth, the Voyager 1 spacecraft sent back pictures of man's closest look yet at the ring planet Saturn. The closest encounter of spacecraft and planet occurs later tonight when Voyager sails just 77,000 miles from Saturn's yellow clouds.
$299.
Very proud to announce that PlayStation 4 will be available at $399.
Impression have the absolute best possible software when we launch.
So you're willing to wait till 96?
We're going to wait.
But already one scientist said, in the strange world of Saturn's rings, the bizarre has become commonplace.
The Sega Saturn breaks away from all convention. You show anyone a Nintendo 64 or a PlayStation 1, even if they didn't own one, they at least played it or at the very least recognize it. If you want N64 merch, you can pick it up at Walmart. But if you want Sega Saturn merch in the year 2023, you're gonna have to check Goodwill. You don't even tell the one girl on the Discord server about this.
Toronto Wire, do you know what a Sega Saturn is? No, I don't know what that is. What is that?
The Saturn at its core is a beefy arcade machine that uses various different processors that in theory could produce higher thresholds for graphics and polygons compared to the PlayStation. The problem was it was 1995 and no one had a clue on how to do that. It's like looking at a Daytona USA arcade cabinet and trying to figure out how to put Final Fantasy VII on it. But maybe Sonic was the answer to all of these problems to make the console worth the headache. See, when the Sega Genesis came out, it was about arcade games for the home. That was like the whole hook of it. And people cared, don't get me wrong, but this is the mascot. He carries the system. So when it came to the Saturn, they launched it the exact same way, even if they had the answer right in front of them.
Our technology comes from the arcade world. You can't take arcade games, advanced computer graphics in the arcade world, and run them on the most advanced PC today. But you can run them on Saturn. Saturn is more advanced than either PlayStation or Nintendo 64. It has 3 32-bit processors in it.
It's not a bad system per se. There was no AVGN Saturn episode. It was just misunderstood and lacked direction everywhere. Everywhere except Japan. The Saturn's success in Japan cannot be understated. Saturns were purchased one-to-one with Virtua Fighter. The sequel took in 1.5 million pre-orders, which was near equal the amount of consoles already sold. The Japanese viewed the Saturn as the ultimate home arcade machine that you could play some JRPGs on. Did he even care about Sonic? It's like if Nintendo Wii U was uber successful in like the EU without a Mario game. The attach rate was just crazy. Up until the release of Final Fantasy VII, this was really the champion of Japan because it played Virtua Fighter. While Virtua Fighter secured Sega's position in Japan, Sonic was the key to securing its position back in North America. Take that engine, take that expertise, and you got the first 3D Sonic game. And they didn't really release it. Now, why wasn't this game released on the Saturn? Well, it was barely released for arcades outside of Japan. Apparently, Sega of America thought the game was too violent. It's like if Nintendo turned away Smash Brothers for the exact same reason. Sega, the company that prided itself for being mature, didn't even have the balls to release a Sonic fighting game. It's a Sonic fighting game. But it makes sense since Knack the Weasel had a gun and you don't want to release a Sonic game involving guns, because that would just be stupid. Sonic the Fighters is a Virtua Fighter clone, and it's a pretty detailed game for what it is. I mean, every character fighting each other has a Chaos Emerald to collect. You take on Dr. Robotnik and Metal Sonic. This is basically the Genesis canon in low polygon 3D, with the introduction of new characters. The colors are bright, and the Virtua Fighter system is pretty solid. Just remember, Aladdin 2 made $300 million. And also, some of these characters, not Sonic of course, made it into Fighters Mega Mix, which is like Avengers Endgame for Sega fighting games. I don't know if you guys remember like Sonic shorts.
Sega, you think you have it bad? Nobody even remembers me. Who are you?
I'm like, who the hell is this guy? It's like, it's kicking my ass, not Bean is him. Who is this guy? He's him. Doo-doo. And in the case of every Sega fighting game, the main character is the last guy you have to fight, and if it's yourself, you're fighting your clone.
Alright, now Sonic's back, but with the Saturn, and it's called
Sonic X-Treme. This is the blue dude with the attitude going 3D this year.
Woo!
I know, look at the reflections. Look at that character. That boss character is amazing.
Now, we never got Mario vs. Sonic vs. Crash because Sonic Team was not the team behind Sonic. They made Nights into Dreams and Burning Rangers instead. These are some pretty good, creative, and fun games. And this is coming from the guy who never played any of these games, so I'm 100% talking out of my ass here. Like, that intro about the 90s? Yeah, I was born in 2001. You were dealing with a knockoff Scott the Woz for this video. Man, this game blows. Oh my god. Oh yeah, this is the N64 killer right here. This is to go on ceilings as Sonic. It makes sense, he could do that. He's fast. But let's do a quick rewind. You see, in the early 90s, game development was not as streamlined as it is today. And of course, because of that, there was a prejudice that American developers could not make as good of games as Japanese developers. Sega was one of the first companies to break bread when Sonic 2 was co-developed by American and Japanese game developers. The American portion of that team was set to make the first 3D Sonic game. Nintendo designed the N64's controller around Mario 64, while Naughty Dog, the creators of Crash, just decided to have the motivation to make a company mascot for the PlayStation. They just decided to do that. They're just like, yeah, let's just make the mascot for PlayStation. They even hacked the system to make the game handle more polygons. Like the crates in Crash is just there because it's a simple polygon, and you can have plenty of them without overloading the system. So while Nintendo was carefully crafting Mario 64, Naughty Dog was hacking the PlayStation with ease for Crash. STI was damn near dying to get Sonic to run on the Saturn. X-Treme's development can be summed up as basically everything that could go wrong did go wrong. It's not a good sign that the game developers making the flagship game for the company didn't even have access to the Saturn's dev kits, and they also had no history with developing 3D games, so I don't know how they were supposed to do this on the Saturn out of all things. The team further down the line requested to use the Nights into Dreams engine from Sonic Team to make Sonic, but they got denied of that resource from the company. I like to think X-Treme started off as a clone of the game Bug, since that was basically a 2D game you can kinda gaslight 3D into. Eventually they tweaked that enough, bringing in the fisheye lens and other deviations to eventually shape the game akin to Mario Galaxy before Mario Galaxy. This is 32-bit Mario Galaxy. This is a Mario Galaxy that did not have a very happy team making the game compared to the actual Mario Galaxy. People got ill working on this game. It was that bad. Now, I'm not gonna say there's no potential for a good game here. It's just when you put a team that had no camaraderie, little resources, the Sega Saturn, a Christmas deadline, and the company didn't even believe in them, let alone the hardware of the system. Sometimes things work against all odds. This isn't one of those times though. I think 50% of what was showcased had hit potential, especially that mysterious Egyptian level. You will never find a better what if game than this one. The 3D adventure that would have been the status quo for Sonic and for every Sonic game to follow thereafter, just like how every 3D Sonic game wanted to be Sonic Adventure after that game came out. On gang, that's on gang. X-Treme, X-Treme. Oh man. Bro, like, I think I enjoyed that little moment more than any part of 3D Blast. While Sega of Japan and Sega of America were busy playing Hearts of Iron 4, Sega of Europe gave whatever this is the keys to the franchise. This game would not be talked about if X-Treme made it. The Saturn version was only greenlit because Sega expected X-Treme to not make its deadline. Even the commercial wasn't too proud of its existence. No, this wasn't a case of, I heard Matt got a Sega Genesis. No, this was just a guy playing a Saturn in the dark, probably wishing he was playing Final Fantasy VII. I can just imagine in 1996, there was a kid who came home on Christmas to a Sega Saturn and 3D Blast. Meanwhile, his slightly older cousin, who he shares a rivalry with, received an N64 with Mario 64, or maybe like a PlayStation with Crash, and now every argument, this kid is forced to defend this game. I think everyone who has ever played this game played it out of morbid curiosity. This is truly the Cavalier that was the Cadillac. There's no limit on ambition, it's a video game, but in this one you are collecting birds. And yeah, that's the game. It's repetitive and you have no business trying to beat it if you never beat the original trilogy, or like any video game ever, in that era at least. In the Saturn version, you can collect the Chaos Emeralds to go to special stages that Sonic Team made. They don't make you turn into Super Sonic when you get them all, but at least you get fun gameplay. In the world where we got a true 3D Sonic game for the Saturn, I think the special stage would have been exactly the same, and I just love the aesthetic of it all. Sonic Jam was Sonic Team's only Sonic game for the Saturn. They remastered Part 1, 2, and 3 with Knuckles without making a big deal about it. The exact opposite of what the Definitive Edition tried to do. Sonic Team revamped the original trilogy with more improved and cohesive level design, while implementing a hub world fashion with the prototype of Sonic Adventure. This 32-bit sandbox is the what if section of the game. Just wander around and wonder what if this was the mainline Sonic game that we were all chasing this generation. That would have saved the Saturn, I bet. But that's all speculation. But let me tell you something I do know. This game's soundtrack, even though it's essentially a compilation game, is without a doubt my favorite in any video game ever. As a kid, I used to listen to this music and pray for better days. As an adult, I still do the exact same thing.
I don't know much, but I know that.
Also, because it's a prototype, the game mechanic of hanging on to Tails, or Miles, was active about 6 years before Sonic Heroes made it annoying. And here we are at the finish line, the last Sonic game of the last generation, and the only ground up Sonic game for the Saturn that no one really knew about until Tails Dollar came along. In the oh so not cringe early 2010s creepypasta era, this game controls like F-Zero, but when you play it, you get tricked into thinking it's going to be like a 3D platformer. While you can knock this game for being kind of bare bones with only 5 tracks and the music if you can't feel the sunshine. This was the first 3D Sonic game that made it to the Saturn. The X-Treme team nearly died for this. To its credit, I think it's a great value of content given the context and, you know, the fact that it's the Saturn. And I think we should thank God through all this turmoil and chaos around this system and management, someone still managed to outsource a 3D Sonic game. This was truly Crash Team Racing to a 3D Sonic game that was not there. God damn it, Knuckles. Oh god, no! I didn't mean to take the... I'm gonna lose because I did that. There is no mystery on why Sega isn't around anymore. Everything they could have done wrong, they basically did, but credit to where credit is due for all they were able to accomplish. Because no matter how many failures they produce, a legend that never got to continue is a legend just the same. Especially when you remember all it took to bring it down. So what was the point of this video? Well, when Sonic Team finally got around to making a mainline 3D Sonic game, the team went to Peru to gain inspiration, which is what inspired the new designs and the new era. So if you think about it, this was a soft reboot, eventually leading to this. Two roads would have prevented this from happening. The first road would be that people enjoyed these games enough and the Saturn was popular in North America. The second road would be a mainline game leads all of these games, and again the Saturn was popular in North America. Because when it comes time for a franchise to go back to basics and really embrace what they walked away from, you get reminded of why and how they walked away from it. Because if this version of Sonic was successful, he wouldn't just be classic Sonic, he would just be Sonic, aka Solid Smirk. Oh my god, I didn't even know I could do that. Oh my god. I think I'm the worst person at this game. He's gonna keep doing that, isn't he? You might know everything I'm going to do, but that's not going to help you since I know everything you're going to do. Strange, isn't it? Ah, fuck. Oh my god, I spammed a button and I won. Oh my god, you don't, why was I not spamming? You just spam and you can win the game. I never knew this. I was playing diverse. I don't like to feel cheap. Oh my god. This guy was kicking my ass. See, look how much time. I'm like 14 minutes into this game. I lost to Mill Sonic like 5 times in a row. Forget, like, in single player fighting games, you could just cheese it. Like, look at this. Ah. I'm him! I am him! And the fact that this wasn't given a wide release when it was very easy to develop. It didn't even come to arcades in North America. But this game looks beautiful. And look at this ending.